Hello, hello, my international people. This is Louise Uwachu, and today we are Thursday, January 5th, 2012. Wow, did you ever think that you would come this far? After everything that has happened in 2011, oh my God, did you think that we would come to finally 2012? Happy New Year, everybody that believes that this is the new year and everybody that believes that this is 2012. Happy New Year to you and happy continued journey to infinity to the rest of the people who know that there is no such thing as time, as I was reminded. All right, so today on the show we have Terry Douglas. He is on the wrong book, and he is an expert in so many things out there, including Russian studies, CIA. We're going CIA, oh my God. And we're going to find out what it is that has happened in 2011 that we have been duped with, and the what it is that we can do better in 2012, because human beings still have all the power to do better and to change their lives. So, before I bore you, let me bring in our guest, and so he can talk to you. Hello, Terry.
Hi, Louise. How you doing?
Happy New Year. Thank you so much.
Happy New Year to you.
What year is it on your calendar?
My calendar, there's no time also. It's
Oh,
only
okay.
the present.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for being with us. So you are in Virginia Beach.
Yes, very close to the ocean.
Nice. And
On
I
which
am
I
on
walk
the other
every
ocean.
morning before dawn.
Oh, that is really great. I'm on the other side of the continent. I'm on the other ocean, on the Pacific.
No, you got to come to Virginia Beach.
I think so too. I definitely think so too. So, Terry, let's tell people, what is your specialty? What is your main specialty, and how does it tie into how we have been duped into 2011?
Well, I'd rather use what's my passion. And what my passion is to wake us all up. And I say us all up. I mean, I'm asleep sometime too. And I think it's necessary for us all to stop slumbering and take responsibility for what's happening, and not to give that off to someone else to decide. So where we've been duped, or where we continue to be duped, is that we don't take personal responsibility for what's happening in the world. And let's look at it, just an example. And I'm not suggesting I'm speaking ex cathedra. That's an old Roman expression where don't challenge me because it's the truth. I'm just making a suggestion. Look at what we're doing now with Iran, and we're really painting them into an evil empire. It was once described as an evil empire, and we're really agitated, and we're making all sorts of threats and everything else. And the question I have, and I've been involved in CIA, I've been involved in international affairs, still involved in international affairs. The question I have is, does Iran pose a threat to the United States national security? And I don't even have the answer. I don't have any clearances now. I'm not going down up to Washington and be briefed. But I think that's an important question to ask, and not for us to all nod and go back to sleep saying, yes, they pose a threat. So the question is, what's the threat? And if it's not to us, who is it to? And are we being drawn into a conflict that maybe it's best to be left to the people on the ground to resolve?
I see exactly what you're saying. Now, you served in the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, in Warsaw, New Delhi, and Beirut, and Berlin?
In Berlin and in Kabul, Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm. Now,
those are all very attractive to me, and let me tell you why. We got extra money for serving in such places. No, I'm just kidding. So I didn't serve in London.
Money. They always get you in with the money.
That's right. I came from the Bronx, New York, and you want to know what's in it for me. So the fact that there may be some danger, the fact is you get a percentage more in salary.
Mhm. So the more dangerous the mission is,
well, there's a limit to what it has. Now that's good news. The bad news is you bring your family, and that's bad news. So you got to be careful about that. I had 5 children.
Mhm.
And obviously a spouse that put up with this.
So what about this thing that people say that nobody really quits the CIA? Did you quit? Or what,
no, I left in 1980, as a matter of fact, and nobody believed it. So you're right. So people still think I'm working for the CIA, but I haven't gotten a paycheck since 1980. Maybe I should claim it.
Well, I'm feeling kind of important right now since the CIA is coming on my radio show nowadays.
Don't feel too important.
I mean, what's going on? I don't have any armies, Not even.
It's
okay. Front, nothing.
No, but I like you, Louise, and that's why I'm doing it.
Okay. All right, I'm watching you too, and I'm listening to you too. So now, what are the 3 major things in 2011 that you think that we have been duped with?
Well, I think Iran is one. I think clearly Iraq was another, and I think our continuing involvement in Afghanistan might qualify. And I say might qualify because the reason we went into Afghanistan was because they were providing a safe haven for Al Qaeda. But it's clear that Al Qaeda isn't there anymore. So the question an electorate has to ask is, if they're not there, why are we still there? And I'm not saying I have the answer. The question is so important.
Yeah. So you're not after the oil.
No. Well, not in Afghanistan. You're not after the oil. I think you're very knowledgeable. That could well have been for Iraq, and that could have been oil interests. It could have been the neo-conservatives in the U.S. who wanted to create a democracy so that Israel was no longer threatened. So there's also a possibility there. So there's all, but the question is not so much to define it on your show as much as to encourage people to ask the question.
Yes,
you have
to ask
protesters
themselves
now.
the question. Yeah.
You have protesters, that are saying that they're the 99%. Well, the 99% has to do more than protest. They have to ask questions. They have to ask questions,
and they have to ask
it
the right
of their electorate, of their representatives. They have to, in a sense, they have to not be docile. And I'm not suggesting that we all run to the barricades, but I'm saying that democracy is most vibrant when people question the system. That's what makes our country very strong. So we're not docile. We just don't grope around. And I served in Poland, and when it was part of the Soviet Union, under the influence of the Soviet Union, and that was very docile. Everyone went along. Why? You had censorship. You had the Soviet Union the Soviets would come in if anyone raised too much of a fuss. So I know what that experience is, but we don't have that experience. So let's take advantage of it. Let's ask the question.
Mm-hmm. What about this new law that anyone can be imprisoned at any time for an indefinite amount of time?
Well, you got me there, Louise. I would say that any law like that, if it reads like that, is just not it's not legal. It has to be challenged in court. Now you can say that has happened with the people that were captured on battlefields and are in Guantanamo, and I really question that. I think we have to apply the same standard of liberty to people in the United States equally. So it can't be something that we pick and choose. I'll use an example of that. Think of during the Second World War when we took American citizen Japanese and put them in camps.
Mm-hmm.
How do we ever justify that? And that didn't happen in Hawaii so much, but it happened here in the continental United States.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a time that very brave people that may be doing something against their business interests, maybe
mm-hmm.
doing something against their political career, but they have to stand up, and they have to stand up and say, hey, hold it. And maybe they have to rent their garments like they did in the times of the Bible times.
Mm-hmm.
If you heard, but you have to be able to stand up. You can't be cowed. And that's what happens in a tyranny. That's what happened in communism. People
mm-hmm.
were cowed. They couldn't read what they wanted to read. They couldn't listen. That's why you had Radio Free Europe that was blasting these programs into the Eastern Europe. So,
mm-hmm.
so therefore, it's a call to bravery.
It's definitely. Now, what I always wonder is, before you join the CIA and the American military, you think you're going out there in the world to do good out there in the world, right? How do you then react when you see that the CIA and the military and the American government policies are not doing good in the world?
Oh, no, I got it. No, come on, Louise. Let me give you a little background.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Fordham University
mm-hmm.
in New York City. I studied undergraduate. I was an English major. Always wanted to write the great American novel, and we'll get to the book I wrote. Okay,
oh, yes.
But it
definitely.
took a while. It took a while to write it. Okay. But then I studied Russian.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, there wasn't anyone studying Russian, and even though it was a significant threat to the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And then CIA came on campus, and I had a choice with Russian of being a school teacher, teaching Russian. And I have nothing against school teachers. I've been teaching at a university, so nothing against teaching. Or I had a chance to join the CIA and travel around the world and see the world. Now, anyone growing up in New York, that's really kind of nice, because no one wants to die in New York if you're raised in New York. You want to see the world.
You want to be James Bond.
No, not James Bond. I wasn't. I wasn't quite the James Bond type. But the fact of the matter is, I wanted to see the world.
Mm-hmm.
And the world, I saw it in a microcosm in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
All the different nationalities, all the different cultures. So that's what set me on. And I had a dream, and the dream was that, Lord, don't let me die in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And I travel all around. Now, I also have thought, and I'm very careful about any connecting flights in New York. I'm afraid that I'll be on a connecting flight in New York and I'll have a seizure and I'll hear a big laugh from the sky. So
you're dead in New York.
So I'm very careful. I will route around New York for my dream. But the fact is, seeing the world and being involved in gathering intelligence. Now, what is intelligence? Mm-hmm. Intelligence is what happens behind closed doors. It doesn't mean what it comes to you, to the United States, in a diplomatic note. which is the official policy. And it's what, okay, there's the official policy.
Mm-hmm.
Now what's really going on?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what CIA is involved in. What is really going on?
Mm-hmm.
So we're not talking about anything, the focus is getting good information. If you read a news article, you read an article and you have assigned more value to a writer that you know is credible, that does work. He does protect his sources, because if he doesn't protect his sources, he'll never have another good story.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the same thing with CIA, and it goes deeper and deeper to find out what motivates nations, what motivates the people right around the central authority. So it's easy to send a satellite overhead and say, oh, they have this and they have that and they have this and they have that. The question is, what are their intentions?
Mm-hmm.
And you can't see that from a satellite.
What are they going to do next?
Yeah, what is their real? What are they going to do next? And you don't get that from a satellite photograph.
Mm-hmm. Now, what do you do with the information? You use it to conquer the world.
Oh, no. Come on, Louise. Please. I know. I studied Caesar Latin when I was in high school. But no, I wasn't involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
No. What you're doing is a national security.
Mm-hmm.
National security. You do want to know if someone is looking to do something to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you're involved in. That's what you should be involved in. Now, clearly, you get off track.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, my generation suffered greatly in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is, why did we get in Vietnam? Well, Kennedy, who I voted for, I'm not old, I voted for Kennedy.
Okay.
Kennedy had this vision, and it wasn't only his, it was rampant during that time, there was a domino theory, that if Vietnam fell, then Malaysia would fall, and then Singapore would fall, and then Cambodia would fall, and then Thailand would fall. But it was a specious theory. It didn't work that way. Each of the cultures had a different agenda, different goals, and different culture.
Mm-hmm. Now, why do you care so much about what's going on out there? Why can't America be satisfied with America?
Well, I tell you, let's use the example of the Internet.
Mm-hmm.
The Internet, if you needed anything else, but I could give you other examples. I could give you travel. You can jump on a plane and you can arrive in Delhi in 14 hours. You can drive in Saudi Arabia in 12 hours. All the things. Now, the fact is, we no longer, if we ever lived in a nation that is just surrounded by oceans, we are part of a global community. Mm-hmm. So the real challenge now is, how can we be involved with other nations and be respectful of them? And I don't want to limit that to political boundaries. I want to say we have to be able to accommodate and be interested in other cultures. We have to know who a Muslim is and don't talk about them as they. Mm-hmm. Just as 30 years ago, 40 years ago, people used to talk about, and let me use the expression, blacks as they. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm saying that we have to be inquisitive enough, awake enough, that we really want to know who that person is in Afghanistan. And we can communicate with them. I get messages from Afghanistan quite regularly, back and forth. And these aren't Christian Afghanis. These are Muslim Afghanis. These are Tajiks from one tribe. They're all from different tribes. Mm-hmm. And when you cultivate that interest and excitement and willingness to observe, again, it goes back to New York. What's better than sitting on a subway and watching the people opposite you on a subway train? Well, it's the same thing in the world. We have all these people riding this subway, and we all have to get to the same destination, and then your theology goes into that, and I'm not going to get into theology, but we're all riding on the same subway car, and we might as well find out who the guy is or the gal is sitting opposite us. And that's what it is. So it isn't conquering the world, it's understanding different cultures, different peoples, different goals, different aspirations, different passions, all of that. And the more we ask those questions and inquire about others, we're enhanced because we begin to ask the same question of us. What's my passion? What's your passion? Forget about what it's going to say on my resume. It's what am I really interested in? What really, makes it difficult sometimes to get to sleep at night because you're thinking about it.
And me, I'm fascinated by what's next. Because the important thing is to know the future, like you said.
Well,
right?
no, unfolding. What's unfolding?
What's
unfolding in you? If you were, don't even spend time on what you were 10 years ago, or I hesitate to say 20 years because you may be only 21. But I'm saying, that it's the question is, who are we today? And look at this bright morning that comes up. And as I told you earlier, I walk on the beach at dawn. What a wonderful thing. What a wonderful experience. A lady friend said to me that she hasn't seen dawn since she had children. And I understand that. But
so what should we be aware of in 2012 in order to not fall into the same traps of 2000?
Well, I think the first thing is we have an incredible political debate going on that is just, I'm so disillusioned by it. I think of Congress and I think of all the things that are going on. So I think the first thing is we may have to resort to prayer. I don't know of anything else, but I think
what kind of CIA agent tells people to pray?
No, I know. That's right. No,
you know better than that. People out there are planning.
Oh, I wish I did.
We should be planning some real things.
No, please. So I think what we really have to be doing is really being awake and conscious of what's happening. We have to challenge the existing order as presented to us in the media, as presented to us by political candidates seeking election or re-election, and we have to really exercise the vote and the voice that our forefathers really fought for.
What about not having the elections at all? Why would you go into elections knowing that they lead nowhere? And
no, yeah, I'm an optimist. See, the difference is, Louise, and it's just the difference if you're on the East Coast, on the West Coast, and I'm on the East Coast. I'm a consummate optimist. A consummate optimist. I'm crazy. You should have interviewed me earlier and determined that indeed this person shouldn't be on my show. I'm a consummate optimist, and I think all is possible. So
you're saying right now that the CIA is praying that the situation is going to get better. We're not going to have war.
No, they're going to have to invite me back in if they're going to do some more praying. I'm saying that for the CIA to improve, and again, I haven't been in the building, so I'm not saying it, it has to shed its political agenda. It has to shed. When I was in CIA, no one knew if anyone was a Democrat, Republican, or independent. It was absolutely, if you had brought that up, you would have been relegated to the basement. So you have to be able to do your job, to exercise your skill, which is significant, whether it be analyzing intelligence or collecting it or distributing it. but you have to do it free of any political agenda. You have to do it free of any bureaucratic advancement.
Wow.
You have to do it.
That's a great solution. No more parties then. No more Democrats. No more Republicans.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying in the CIA you can't be.
Yeah, but this should be applied to real life.
And you can't have people
having parties is
you can't have
serving
people in charge of an organization that come from a carry with them a political agenda. You can't do that.
So that should be the maybe the role of the Senate. Maybe
okay,
Senate.
So that's what I think we're going to have to do, Louise. We're going to have to set up a committee, and that we're going to look over the people they nominate for these different positions. And it can't be politically motivated.
They have to be qualified, and they have to
qualified. That's it. They have to be qualified, and they can't bring in their political baggage.
Wow.
Boy, we're going to start a revolution. And isn't it interesting? I'm on the East Coast, you're on the West Coast. We can do the whole thing.
We could do the whole thing. You know, we'll definitely meet in the middle somewhere. Okay, so now let's go to fiction, since we've solved the non-fiction.
Right.
Let's get to the fiction side of life. You wrote a book called Ganymede, which I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right.
Oh, you have a beautiful accent. It sounds Greek. It's from Greek mythology.
I took Greek when I was in high school.
See? So you're perfect.
So, and this is exactly from a Greek mythology, and this is about Zeus picking a human.
And plucking them up to heaven. And the story is actually the name Ganymede is the name of an operation. And it's a CIA operation, and it's fiction, and it takes place, the story begins in Beirut at the start of international terrorism, when it emerged on the scene. At the time, many people in CIA couldn't spell terrorism because they were still focusing on the Soviet Union, and they were, other things. And anyone who got involved in terrorism was, in fact, hurting his career or her career. So the story begins in Beirut during the Civil War there. And that's the beginning of the tale that goes from Beirut to Athens to Libya to Israel to the United States to Germany. And it's a tale that is very it's a good tale, and I must say, since I wrote it, it had to be a good tale. It's a good tale about what a case officer does in a day-to-day life. So it isn't a Robert Ludlum with all the pizzazz. It isn't a Clancy with all of the all of the imagination. This is more in the tradition of a Le Carré. This is the way it is. There's moments of absolute excitement, and then how do you handle when you're waiting for someone to come, and the boredom, and how do you stay occupied? I used to be in Poland, I'd be in a kawiarnia, which is a Polish coffee house, waiting for someone to come, and I'm alone, and I don't want to appear as if I'm waiting for someone.
You don't want to appear CIA.
Yeah, that's right. So I would be writing on a napkin, and whether it was poetry or writing about some thoughts I had, I was very occupied.
People are going to think I'm CIA now because I'm a writer. That's what I usually
do. You're doing the same thing.
You're blowing my cover.
I know that. But I knew that. I did a background check on you, and I knew that's what you were really interested in.
Oh, my God. We have been busted. So let's take
Right.
a real example. For example, in Libya, what does a case officer in Libya do?
Right now, nothing, because there isn't any.
Mhm.
Okay, so you have areas that are closed. North Korea, nothing.
Mm.
And how do you get information then? You still need information. So you find people that are traveling in and out of there, and you meet them, and you give them requirements, and you get information. So you always need information. But if you're in a place, in a closed place, you operate very, very carefully. Very
So you
carefully.
send journalists.
No, that's dangerous. That's dangerous because it's so obvious.
Mhm.
You got to be selective. You got to be.
But it's been said that some of these journalists that are reporting on the international news sometimes are working for the CIA.
No. There's regulations that that isn't allowed for obvious reasons. You don't want to screw up a news service or a newspaper.
But there are so many bloggers and
Well, the new technology. You're better on that than I am. So maybe maybe you're right.
So where are you sending me? I want to go. I want to go to Bahamas.
We have to do that off
the air. Can I be sent to the Bahamas?
No. I'll give you your assignment once we're off the air. I don't want to.
Now, this book of yours, Ganymede, it sounds close to nonfiction. Are you sure it's fiction?
Oh, it's fiction. I have to say it's fiction. I have to say it's fiction.
Yes.
But let me say, any author, I think, and you can check me on this, any author incorporates what he knows best into the characters, who the people he met, who the experiences he had. For instance, the experiences with women in that oftentimes reflect my relationship with a wife that I had for many, many years. 39 years I was married until she passed away. So and it's not sad. It's
Did
funny.
they teach you how to have a good marriage in the CIA? Because it seems to be like
she was really
the
good.
rest of the people don't know how to be married.
The first time I met her, I was in the Air Force, and I was in Spokane, Washington, and I was actually assigned to Glasgow Air Force Base, Montana, and they sent me TDY to temporary duty to Spokane, Washington. And I was there a week, and I met this lady that I was later to marry. And the first time I met her, I'd come out of a shower, and I had a towel around me, and my other roommates were with me, and she was there to borrow a barbecue. And what she said to me, "Oh, you're the guy who speaks Russian. Are you CIA?" And I nearly dropped the towel because I had a cover. And I figured I better marry this gal. I proposed to her the next week, and we got married in 2 months, and we were married for 39 years.
Wow.
But I did that all for CIA. I didn't want to blow my cover.
Or maybe she was sent to you.
That's right. She had a kind of a Russian accent, and I often wondered about that. No, but actually she came from Bremerton, Washington, which in effect is like a Russian accent compared to New York.
But so you were traveling all the time.
Oh, yeah, we went everywhere. We went, our first assignment was 3 years into Warsaw, 4 years into New Delhi.
And you're allowed to bring your family.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I wouldn't go. I wouldn't have, that would have been a great way to have me say, forget it. Yeah, no, I had my family. So I had 2 children when I went to Warsaw. I left Warsaw with 3 children. I left Delhi with 5 children.
Pretty much making a baby everywhere.
Yeah, but it was, nothing, that was the only thing I really knew how to do.
That's a beautiful life.
That was the only thing I knew how to do. And then we went to, but it didn't get so funny in Beirut because all the fighting started, and she was evacuated to Athens. And from Athens, we went to Berlin, and then we went back to the States. So I had 5 kids. The oldest one was just going into high school.
Wow. So where do people who go into real dangerous assignment send them? People who are not allowed to bring their family?
Oh yeah, no, that happens. I couldn't bring anyone to say some of the places I went, you couldn't bring your children. I couldn't keep my family in Beirut during the fighting.
Mhm.
So I mean, yeah, you don't want to put your family at that risk. Though being abroad, you become kind of a tribe. Maybe I say that because I had 5 kids. But you're kind of a tribe that you kind of move together. And one of the children we adopted from Mother Teresa's in India. So we had this little gal, Coffee One Cream, in our family, and it's that little gal who gave birth to a son that I've been raising as my son. I adopted him, and he's 16 years old now. So people look at us, and it's really amusing because the people will say, you two look alike. And he'll smile because there's no DNA connecting us, which is also a great indication of, love is not connected to DNA.
Wow, that is really fascinating. Now, what do you want people to get from the book?
Well, I want them. There's a theme in it that we've been talking about, and that's what attracted me to say, hey, let me come on your show. Is underneath it. It's really an exciting book, and I can say that because I wrote it. But it's a fast-moving book. But beneath it is a theme that we've been talking about. Be careful. But it's be careful in think about why we're doing things and why would someone want us to do this? Is it because of a political action committee, or is it because it really does apply to our national security interests? So that's sort of an erudite. It's it's almost I hesitate to say that because the book is really quick. In fact, if I had time, I'd read you just the first page that opens up with a anonymous sniper walking on the war-ravaged streets of Beirut. Young fella, 16 years old. In fact, my son asked me, "Did you model that after me?" I said, "No." I said, "No, I didn't." And he goes up on a street on the top of an abandoned skyscraper, 10-story building, and he does this all the time. And it's an anonymous. He has nothing against the person he shoots. So, and that was always the beauty when you were in Beirut during that time. Again, because I'm an optimist, that if I ever got hit by a sniper, I would know that there was nothing personal in it.
He's just shooting you because you're an American.
No, he's just shooting me because I'm in his target. He doesn't even know I'm an American.
Oh, he's been given a picture.
No, he's not been given anything. He's on the top of a building, the Holiday Inn in Beirut, and he's just looking down, and he sees a figure moving. He can't even tell whether it's a woman or a man. There's no photograph.
So he's just shooting for the sake of shooting?
He's shooting because it's in the other area. It's across his area.
Oh. So one tribe on one side.
No, but not even a tribe. It's just a group. But the point is that there's nothing personal. The embassy in Beirut used to have a sign at the back entrance and had an arrow, and it said, "Sniper, enter here." Now, that isn't an invitation to a sniper to come in. It was an invitation to you to use the back entrance because on the front entrance there was a sniper on the Holiday Inn that was active. So don't use the front entrance to the embassy.
Wow.
No, but you see, in forgiving, your last breath, if I had gotten hit, would be, I have no anger against him. He didn't have any anger against me.
So the question is, why does he do it?
Oh, because he's fighting for his. He wants to take over an area.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nothing personal. It's nothing about CIA. It's nothing even about Americans. If you could see me, I'm not quite, the standard American. There's not, if there is a standard-looking American. So that isn't it. But the point is, when you reach a place like Beirut during a civil war, and there's other places around this world right now, where you have that kind of violence that is absolutely impersonal. It's random violence, and you have to operate in that. You have to come to grips with that, and you can't put your hands over your head and say, "Oh my, the world's coming down." No, you gotta kind of move out.
So now in 2012, the main question for us will be to ask, why do we need to go to war with Iran?
No, I obviously I think Iran is critical. Is critical. If a political party comes in and begins to bang the shields and just because, and that's it, just because. No, you can't even complete the sentence. Just because. Wow, that's pretty serious.
So Libya was irrelevant. The trouble in East Africa is irrelevant.
It was relevant. There was a lot of things going on. Now the question is, what can we do? What can we do as a nation, not CIA? What can we do as a nation to spread that wonderful spring? The Arab Spring. There was a burst there. Now you see things happening in Egypt where they're thinking of forgetting about that peace treaty that, oh my God, with Israel, it took so many years. And they're thinking of putting it aside. Oh, please, let's go slowly on that.
But they're saying that the revolution in Egypt was manipulated by the CIA.
No, not so.
I expected you to deny it.
No, not deny it. If you had someone here, can you send someone over with a polygraph, and I'll take a polygraph exam? No.
You have to teach me how to pass those, just in case. You have to teach me how to pass those.
I could do that, by the way. I could do that. No. But you're too far away. It would take too long.
No. But that's what they were saying. That the CIA was behind the whole thing, and there's no revolution going on.
No, you're giving them too much credit. You're creating a monster. That's what the Soviets used to do. Think the CIA was so big, and we used to think the KGB was so big. No, come on now. It's not that. It's just like go back to New York or wherever you grew up, and it's just. How do you work with people? How do you work with people that you really don't like? Okay? It's easy to get along, to work with people you like. Okay, but now the challenge is, and oftentimes who you don't like, you don't know. So how do you work with someone you don't like? Well, the first thing, you better get to know them. And don't immediately assume, people talk about Muslims and they're terrorists and they and you ask them, who's the last person of the Muslim culture faith that you've talked to? That's the requirement. So if there's any requirement, assignment, do you give out assignments at the end of your program?
Yeah, sometimes.
Okay, give them an assignment. Everyone is to engage a Muslim in conversation. That'd be an interesting one. Wouldn't it be? I mean, it's kind of interesting. I mean, the food might be even better. May enhance your appetite, your cuisine.
Personally, I don't even believe in religion, so.
No, but that's no.
When I engage people who are of the Muslim faith.
No, forget about religion. But how about spirituality?
Yes.
Okay.
I am.
So just stay with spirituality. And spirituality, I have had conversations in Saudi Arabia, a very, very conservative country.
Mm-hmm.
I've had conversations in Taif. Taif was a military base, but it was also the scene of a massacre of Christians when the Muslims just came into power.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had conversations on a parade ground at a military base about the Christian scripture and Quran with a parachute lieutenant from the Saudi Army, Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do that everywhere. So that's the assignment. I hope that people have pencil and paper. They have to engage them. But, and that's what it takes. It takes breaking down the barriers and understanding that at a spiritual level, do we have a lot in common? Is
this an indicative that the future is going to be filled with conflict between the Christians and the Muslims?
No, I hope not. I hope not, because that's boring. I saw that in Beirut.
Mm-hmm.
3 Christians would be killed in a being out, young people out after curfew. Christians went back the next day and killed 220 Muslims.
Mm-hmm.
And how did they know they were Muslims? They took them off buses and looked at their identity cards and killed them.
Because they write their religion in their identity
cards?
No,
at the time they had their identity documents said you're a Muslim, you're a Christian, and this, that, and the other thing. So what I'm saying is, let's discard that. Let's discard that, and let's engage people at the deepest level, and let's not let the rules. I'm a Catholic, so you better genuflect just the way I do.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, come on.
So what does a Catholic person have to say about the behavior of the church in 2011?
I'm not a spokesman.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying at a spiritual level,
mm-hmm.
where I was first introduced to spirituality, not religion, spirituality was from a Catholic tradition.
Mm-hmm.
But believe me, that has nothing to do with sitting in the right pew or doing this because it's required or that because it's required or this because... No, it introduced me to spirituality that transcends, or if you want to look at it the other way, goes much, much deeper than any of the rules, any of the edifices, any of the institutions, and everything else.
Mm-hmm. That's very interesting. I think it would be interesting for people to think about what if this was done to us. Every time.
Of course.
We're getting ready to go and kill people over there who we don't know, who we've never met, who we have no problems with overseas. What if people overseas, Iran, was having their own CIA coming to do in the United States what you do in their country,
that's true,
preparing an attack on the United States?
I know, but I think that's not even feasible, because one of the things you have to do is to look at real threats. Mm-hmm. Real threats to our nation.
It's not feasible because you have more intelligence than them?
Yeah, of course. No, absolutely. I think that's one thing, and we have a military that's enormous.
So you know everything they're doing, but they don't know much about what you're doing.
Oh no, they don't know much. They don't know that much. But now let me tell you something else. The danger is when you don't know much, you can get into even more trouble. Think of the Japanese at the beginning of World War II. Oh, they had this fantastic attack, December 7th. They attacked Hawaii. Do you think they had any serious planning to say, what's the capacity for the United States to respond? Do you think anyone was sitting around with Tojo saying, "Hey, this is it sounds really good. We can do that to the fleet out there." But
mm-hmm.
do you realize what their capacity is? So what I'm saying is intelligence is really important, because in a sense, and this sounds a little crazy, but I told you ahead of time, you may have had someone on this program that's crazy. It would be, I would hope that the Iranians would know what our capacity is. I would hope that they know what our military is capable of. I would hope that they know what our intelligence is capable of.
So you're saying they should be scared?
Not scared, reasonable. I'm not
because
saying anyone
they know
should be
that you are superior to them.
No,
so
but even superior, even equal is good. Even equal is good. I'm not even saying that it has to be, it has to be superior. I'm just saying, hey, look, if I'm against a worthy opponent, I'm not going to be foolish. So we don't want anyone to be foolish. I think you can argue the Japanese were foolish.
But some reports say that the attacks were provoked in order to provoke and have Japan respond in that way, and then eventually lead
but that's
war into Europe.
That's people who spend too much time on a campus. They have nothing else to do. That's the other thing. You can't stay on a campus. You gotta work out in the real world. Okay?
Yes.
You've been talking to all these scholars, and then you got this guy out of the Bronx come on your program, and then, oh, gee whiz.
Well, you get the scholars' view, and then you get the field people view, and then I guess this is great for the listeners because they'll make up their mind.
Oh, no, I know. They'll what I hope they do is they buy my book, and then they can write to me and really raise hell with me.
They will get so much information. Now, your website, one of your websites is Rules of Engaging.
Yes, that's. I've been involved, and I'll deal with that very quickly. I've been involved in. I wrote a book that followed the passing of my wife called Rules of Engaging Grief. Those of your listeners who have any understanding of the military, there's rules of engagement. You go wandering around in the world on the sea, and there's rules of engagement when you can fire off at someone. So I took Rules of Engaging, and I created a book called Rules of Engaging Grief and a Path to Healing. And it's 39 rules. And I didn't I didn't begin it as a book. I began it as, how am I going to keep my sanity? Married to someone for 39 years.
Yeah.
And she passes away, and she got hit by a car.
Oh, no.
She got hit by a car holding...
Is this like a drunk driver?
No. He's just a guy that did what we all do. He looked right going into making a left, and he hit her in a crosswalk, and she was holding my son's hand. He was 8 years old at the time.
Oh, no.
Okay, and she was gone within hours. I took her off life support. Okay,
oh, no.
Now with that, I realized that, hey, this is serious. This is serious. And I, in a sense, cleared the deck to pick up on everything. And I had this little guy who was a blessing because I couldn't just contemplate my navel, feel sorry for myself, and drink. I had to get into soccer, to school, and everything else. Okay, the book emerges from that. Okay, and in that on that website is also meditations that I post daily. Okay, then I have, and this is where the book is advertised. Is I have this site called IntuitIntelligence.com.
Yes.
And that has world reflections on it. It has a little. It has something from the book that people can download. It has, and it's focused on the international arena. And it has a biography, and it has some photographs of me that I've been suggested, like a daughter suggested, you got to get something more serious.
I see this safari-looking picture.
but you see, everyone wants to put me into a mold. That this is how you should look, and I like looking the way I look. and it's a it's kind yes indeed. I was the one with the 3-button suit. I was the one with the all of the things, and again I apologize. This is the 4th time I've mentioned it. I think I'm a little crazy.
Everyone is a little bit crazy.
Good.
So
thank you, Louise. That makes me feel better.
You're definitely talking to another crazy person.
Right. So that's the other website. So it's intuitintelligence.com, and that discusses and it sort of begins to address the whole intuition process and how it's linked to creativity and how indeed that's how we're empowered. We're not drones. We're not someone who has to read a manual to see what where we're going to move our where we're going to take our next step.
But that's how you're going to fight the wars of the future. There are going to be more drones now.
No, they're not. They're going to be people like me.
Oh.
And that's why I've been assured recently that I'm going to live to 110 years old. So I'm going to be around a while.
They give you a CIA pill to live long.
Right.
I know they're making those.
Oh, I know. I've volunteered to try it. So we'll see.
So people in the future, what you pretty much want to teach people is to use their intuition.
Right.
This is the future.
Yeah, but it was the past. In the past, people did it. We forgot it. We forgot it along the way.
There's this thing saying in ancient Africa, the first inhabitants of the land, the Twa, the Avatwa, which are the pygmies, the original hunters and gatherers, their gift is intuition. That's their primary gift.
And see, that's where we should be learning from. The Bushmen.
The Bushmen. The Bushmen.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same.
But they have been exterminated.
No, but we're going to bring them back. Now, the fact is, I'm a little tall. I'm 6'2", and I haven't shrunk yet, which is amazing. I keep measuring myself to see if I've shrunk. And though my son is getting taller than me, and he's trying to indicate that maybe I'm shrinking. I'm not. He's growing.
Oh.
And
so you cannot fit into the Bushmen. You're too tall for the Bushmen. No. Is that what you're saying? You're too tall
that's what I'm saying. But I
Bushman.
think it's critical for us to be still. How many times in a day are we still? We're doing everything.
Yeah.
We're listening to. We're doing this. We're doing that. We got all these tasks. And how many times do we just be still? And maybe it requires people, and this is an advertisement for Starbucks, maybe you have to go to a Starbucks alone and have a latte, and alone, no agenda, and maybe take a little pad with you and just jot down some thoughts you have, not tasks, thoughts you have.
So not think about where is Starbucks getting its coffee from, and if those coffee farmers are getting paid.
Free trade and all the other stuff. No, don't do that.
Don't think about that while you're at Starbucks.
See, you're going to be all stirred up, and you're not going to have you better not go to Starbucks. No, I'm saying that you have to be still. I'm still in the morning. I go out it's still dark, and I go out and I'm on the beach. And I'm watching the sunrise, and dolphins are coming by, and I'm still. If anything, I could say I'm praising. This is a prayer. You don't have to be in any religion or anything else. I am just astounded by creation.
Wow, that's really great. Now we're coming towards the end of the show. What kind of tip can you give the listeners, like a tip on how to recognize intuition? How do you know? How does it attack you? How are you supposed to feel that you're supposed to do something? When you feel...
Now, in fact, I think I was even hinting at it, and I didn't know it. I think the first thing for intuition is to set aside a time And maybe it's the morning, but as you get gifted with this, it can be any time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a time when you're just still and you're just listening, and you're listening. And maybe as a beginner, if there's someone in the audience as a beginner, is just jot down a couple of thoughts that you have, and treat those in a sacred way.
Mm-hmm.
Because my Lord, isn't that interesting that thought came to me? The other tip I'd give them is there are no coincidences.
Mm-hmm.
No coincidences. We get sloppy and we see something that happens and we say, oh, it's a coincidence. There are no coincidences in life.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that is occurring, you are in the center of it, and you're and be aware of that. And I'm not saying that to the exclusion of someone else or anything else.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying that in this present moment, you are the center of your creation, of yourself, and be aware of that and draw in that power, because it's all there for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, if the CIA is complaining, I will be becoming more powerful if they're listening. I mean, it's not my fault.
I agree. You may be off the air. Who knows?
I'll find other ways to create other shows, other places, because.
And as good as this show is, the next show is even going to be better.
Oh, thank you so much. So we have come to the end. Terry Douglas, and the book is called Ganymede, and you can find him on Intuit Intelligence. It's INTUITINTELLIGENCE.com.
That's right.
Intuit Intelligence. Wow.
It's a tongue twister. You can't say it. It's really to keep people who are drinking from saying it, because they couldn't say it if they're drinking too much.
That's really great. We don't want any people. They can discuss it while they're drunk, but they can't read it while they're drunk.
Right. Absolutely.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, and people better be warned. I don't know who else can give them better warning about what's going on and what's coming, if not someone like you, Terry.
Oh, you're very flattering. I appreciate it.
So thank you so much for being on, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Continue your journey, and keep praying.
Same to you. And yes, all of the same.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. My international people, that was the show. So some of you who use prayers, CIA is saying you should keep praying. And some of you who use planning, you should keep planning, because I know for sure that they are not praying, they are planning. So you better pray and plan and play and pray and plan. Thank you so much for tuning in, and happy new journey, new year. Have a great evening. This is Louise Wachu on the You and I Talk on Radio show. Good night.